Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of 365 Days of Gaming. Really appreciate you taking our time to check out this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, everything it says to do on the screen. Much appreciated in advance. Now for today's episode, we're talking about a game for me personally that's one of my favorite comic book characters, even though I've never read any of the actual comics. This is Spawn for SNES. Yes, there is a Spawn game for the PlayStation as well, but I played it, not as big of a fan because it's like 3D and it's trying to look all like gruesome and brutal, but PlayStation really wasn't ready for that. So I was more of a fan of the Super Nintendo version because it's more colorful and like, you know, it's still Spawn stuff. It still looks kind of gruesome, obviously not bloody and things like that, but I like the visuals better. I just do. It's more comic book style. But yeah, the thing I always liked about Spawn games too is like they always try to show off the fact that he has all these abilities and powers. So usually have a bunch of different moves, even, you know, whatever version you play, they usually try to show off a lot of Spawn's abilities because technically he's supposed to be like super strong. Nobody can beat him and all of that, which is cool, but you know, still got to make it a fun game. So, and this one, you know, essentially just follows the comic book. So you just kind of go through each of the same stages. I liked it because I was a big fan of like the cartoon that used to come on HBO, and then obviously the movie with Michael Jai White. I always thought it was a very underrated comic book movie, but you know, the game essentially just like the cartoon because like I said, not that I didn't want to read the Spawn comic books, but like didn't have a lot of money as a kid, but also, you know, it's they had games and they had a cartoon, so I'll watch that and play that instead. What I really do enjoy, like this game isn't, you know, super in depth as far as like it's a beat 'em up, right? And in order to, you know, kind of progress the game and kind of give you different variations of gameplay, they have to throw in some platforming, which, you know, Spawn can kind of fly, but not really. It's very weird when it comes to how he moves around because in a lot of cases he can just kind of levitate and float. But then, you know, in the game, they can't really just let you fly because, you know, you just be unstoppable. So they make you do a lot of like, I call it Batman or Spider-Man. Actually, it's more like a Mega Man, like the wall slide jumps. So you have to do a lot of that, but Spawn isn't as good at it. And also I'm not as good at it. So, you know, this is a game I didn't beat, not because I didn't want to, but it is very hard. And I was not one of the kids who would write down passwords for like 90% of games. I think the only game I really ever wrote passwords down for was Mega Man X. Other than that, I would just be like, we'll just, you know, we'll take a run at it and see how far we make it. But the other cool thing I like about this game is like it has boss fights. So you go through different levels and there's always some sort of boss fight. Some bosses are not made equal. So like when you're going against the first boss, Overkill, like it's not really that hard. You just beat on them because you do way more damage. But then when you start to get to like the Redeemer and stuff like that, like, yeah, you know, it's nowhere near the same difficulty. Like the spike is crazy. Like I was getting cooked for like 9 lives against him. I finally had to like, you know, squeak it out. But you know, once you kind of get to that point, the game gets like really hard. Also, I'm kind of washed, so you know, it's a combination of both. But this was always a really cool game, and the fact that it was on Super Nintendo was always cool too because it's like one of my favorite systems. So, you know, it's a very, I always felt an underrated entry in the library. Like a lot of people rarely ever talk about Spawn in general, and definitely not this game. Like there's a couple other games that I usually hear brought up when they talk about Spawn, but I like this one. Like I said, I like the colors, I like the visuals, I like the gameplay, I like the fact that he had a bunch of different moves, and you know, it was just it was never going to be like a blockbuster thing. Like Spawn has always been this, like, I won't say underground comic, but like it's never really broke 100% into mainstream. And it really hasn't had a lot of like not comic book content since the late 90s, early 2000s. So maybe if we get a new Spawn game, you know, I feel like it might be that time. Maybe, maybe we can redo, you know, make a sequel to the movie because we don't need to reboot it because Michael Jai White was amazing in Spawn. So let's just keep that the same. Either way, I'm sure some of you have indulged in some Spawn content. If you haven't played this game and you are a fan of Spawn, I'm telling you, this is, to me, is the best. It's the best one because of the gameplay mechanics and stuff like that. Now, it's not the greatest beat 'em up, and it's definitely got some issues control wise, but it is still very fun. I used to rent this all the time. It's just a pretty cool game, so I would definitely recommend it. If you do know about this game, did you beat it? Because if you did, hats off to you. I did not, and do not have the patience to try now. But if you know about this game and you have some thoughts on it, I'd love to hear it from you. Either way, I appreciate you letting me reminisce with you. Y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. Peace.